Days pass and Boros, in his human disguise, gets Phoenix Men accustomed to the life of a hero. They do some patrols, take on some monsters, and Boros teaches Phoenix Men how to not be too awkward with people. Phoenix Man can't help but notice that the alien doesn't seem to know what he's doing in that department. Probably not the best person to learn this specific skill from. Things seem to be going well, but internally, the Hero Association higher-ups are freaking out. Putty Prisoner, an S-class hero, has gone missing. He went to deal with a monster and never returned. The day after the disappearance, Drive Knight found some witnesses to Puri's final battle. It was against a demon-level threat, and the hero won, but then suddenly vanished into thin air. Drive Knight suspected either a monster with teleportation powers, or a monster so fast that they can't be seen by the naked eye to have snatched Puri away. After roaming around the area for a little while, Drive Knight stumbled into a gruesome sight on a nearby alley. A bloody pile of fabric, clearly from the sweater Puri used to wear, hidden behind a trash bin. There was no body to be found, but upon doing a blood test, it was determined that the blood was indeed Puri prisoners. The conclusion was clear. Puri was dead, and probably devoured on the spot. The Hero Association is trying not to panic. There are many S-class heroes. Losing just one isn't the end of the world. But Sitch reminds everyone what's been going on recently. Ever since Tatsumaki's 5-way battle royale with 4 above dragon level monsters, animals, people, and heroes alike have been vanishing without a trace all over the continent. At first it was just low-ranking heroes, then A-class, and now S-class. This is the first time that the culprit left any clues as to what happened to those who went missing. If there was any hope of finding any of the missing people alive, now it's gone. And clearly, whatever is responsible for this, it's getting stronger. Or more daring and aggressive. Or both. The situation is not looking good. Sitch establishes a countermeasures division to deal with this invisible threat, and urges them to be careful in light of Drive Knight's intel. The Hero Association also holds an official funeral for Puri. The Hero Association as a whole releases a bulletin on Puri's death and advises caution for all heroes and hero groups. The threat is at least disaster-level dragon, and seeking to consume heroes. Patrolling in unfamiliar areas is heavily discouraged, and further bulletins will be released as the case of this unknown monster develops. One hero to receive this message is Darkshine, who is currently patrolling City V. Usually he'd be stationed at the Hero HQ defending it. However, the hero wants to clear his head and get some fresh air, so he's out on patrol duty today. Things haven't been the same for the man ever since the battle with Evil Ocean Water. During it, the invincible, indestructible muscles of Darkshine took damage for the first time in years. It shook his confidence and made him wary of battle. The feeling was only further amplified when he saw how much stronger Boros and that Baldy were compared to him. His indestructible, all-powerful muscles were made to look like nothing in comparison to those two Goliaths. After some talking with the other heroes afterward, he regained some of his confidence, but things just haven't been the same. Darkshine needs to claim some victories to hype himself back up. Suddenly, the sound of glass shattering catches the hero's ears. He looks over to the source and sees that someone's broken into a cafe. He runs over to punish the culprit, but what he sees inside surprises him. It's a guy wearing skin-tight clothing, with what seems like ninja weapons strapped to his back and waist. He's devouring an assortment of food and muttering something to himself about not having eaten a proper meal in a while. Darkshine calls out to the man, who perks up a bit before standing up and turning to look at Darkshine, who is now certain that this guy has to be some sort of ninja. The muscular hero smiles. He tells the ninja that it's common courtesy not to rob shops or break windows. He politely asks him to pay the bill and come with him quietly. To this, the ninja introduces himself as Speedo Sound Sonic, and tells Darkshine to get lost before he dices him up. Of course, the super ally hero refuses, and soon Sonic realizes what he's dealing with. S-class hero Darkshine. Now that's quite a catch. This guy might actually be worth practicing his skills on. After the humiliation and terror Goro instilled in him, he needs to improve on his skills greatly. And so a battle breaks out. At first, Darkshine dominates, with all of the ninja's weapons breaking on contact with the muscular hero's skin. However, things change when he enters his monster form. With his newfound power boost, Sonic is able to deal some real damage to Darkshine and force him screaming to the concrete. Sonic remarks how pathetic Darkshine is for falling to such meager damage before going in for the killing blow, only to be knocked away into the sky at the last second. A moment later, he vanishes into the horizon. A bald hero in a yellow outfit approaches Darkshine, who's still on the ground clutching his wounds. The muscular man looks up and recognizes his savior as Saitama, the guy who fought Boros and destroyed Mars. For a moment, the hero feels grateful for being saved, but a second later, that is replaced by embarrassment. He cried like a bullied child. He's groveling on the ground like some damsel. He, Darkshine. The damage he took, the shame, and the massive blow to his pride all come together to cause the man to break down. Darkshine starts apologizing. He tells Saitama he thought he was strong. He thought he wanted a worthy rival. But ever since taking damage, and then seeing Boros and Saitama fighting, he feels like nothing. And now this wound, and this shameful display of cowardice. It all just proves that he's nothing but an imposter playing pretend. He's not a real hero. He doesn't deserve to... Jeez man, shut up already. If you think you're pathetic, then do something about it. Stop complaining and just train harder. There's no point in feeling sorry for yourself. Darkshine is shocked by the bald hero's words. But what about the damage I've taken? I've been stabbed. And I could have been killed too. My life was on the line. How can you fight like that, knowing you might die? I'm scared. I'm scared of the next fight, no matter how much I train. Saitama sighs. You know, I used to be scared of monsters too, back when I was a normal dude. I got into a fight with one and was nearly killed. Since then, I've trained every day to become a hero. But eventually, I became so strong no one could scratch me anymore. Yes, that's the feeling. When no one can hurt you, you feel all-powerful. Now imagine suddenly getting hurt. How would you feel? Would you be able to keep on fighting, knowing that your life is on the line? Darkshine asks, and Saitama looks off into the distance. That is my dream, he says, and Darkshine's eyes widen. What do you mean? If there were ever a fight that threatened my life, I would love to experience it. That's my greatest dream, to feel the rush of battle again. Being all-powerful is not what it's cracked up to be. I'm bored. Darkshine stares at the bald hero with sadness in his eyes. That's how I used to imagine it. And now look at me. Nonsense like that. I can see how insane it really is now. Just you wait. If you ever get to this dream of yours, you'll crumble. Just like me. Darkshine sobs and Saitama shakes his head. You can say it's insane, but it's how I feel. Being the strongest gets dull, fast. When life has no more challenges to throw your way, you get bored, you know? There's no more room to grow or feel excitement. I'll be honest, I'm jealous of you, man. Darkshine remains quiet after this declaration, so Saitama turns to leave. Do whatever you want, but if you want my advice, I'd say relish the challenge. Saitama says before walking away, leaving Darkshine all on his own to ponder things. Sometime later, Boros and Phoenix Men head out on another one of their patrols. The final one before Boros will allow the bird monster to go out in public on his own. As they walk through the city, Boros looks his human armor up and down before letting out a sigh. This sucks, he says out of nowhere, causing Phoenix Men to turn to him. What does?
Having to wear this armor. I've already proven myself to the heroes, so I feel like the public would get used to my true form pretty soon as well.
The association doesn't want to reveal that you're a monster to the public for obvious reasons. It would cause panic among the masses and disgrace the Hero Association's name. Phoenix Man explains and Boros nods.
Initially, yes, but imagine the good press when people eventually realized the Hero Association found out how to work together with intelligent monsters and employ them for the good of humanity to destroy the mindless killing machine monsters.
Phoenix Man shakes his head. I don't know. Seems pretty risky to just reveal your identity. People probably wouldn't accept you. Or me, as a matter of fact, if they knew who we really were.
Perhaps. But regardless, us being monsters is far from the worst secret this organization is keeping. Maybe they just don't want to open the floodgates for investigation into them, from various reporters or other organizations. Imagine the amount of dirt and skeletons in their closet the world could find.
Phoenix Man raises an eyebrow. What do you mean? Does the Hero Association really have much dirt like that? Sure, they can be scumbags sometimes, but is there really anything that incriminating about them?
Oh, you wouldn't believe how much there is. They're keeping monsters under the Hero HQ for one.
This comes as a shock to the bird monster. Whoa, seriously? How would you even come to that conclusion?
Ever since I started training to control my energy better, my sensory capabilities have improved greatly. As long as I'm concentrating, I can sense living beings and their approximate power and shape all around me in a pretty large radius.
Boros explains and Phoenix Man nods. I see. Are you planning to do anything with that information?
No, it's none of my business. I don't really care what they're up to anyway. Wait, hold on a sec.
Boros stops walking and Phoenix Man follows suit. The bird monster is about to ask why the alien stopped, but then he sees a young man step out of the shadows of a nearby alleyway. He's got a muscular physique, spiky red hair, and a black spiral running all across his body. Phoenix Man recognizes him instantly. Goro! He shouts out, surprised to see the hero hunter here. However, something seems off about him. That spiral. The human monster wasn't like this before. But what stands out most of all is the left side of Goro's face. It's so mangled and distorted, looking less like a human and more like the face of a monster. Phoenix Man hasn't seen Goro since the very beginning of the forest battle, where the hero hunter and himself fought Goketsu and the ninja trio. The bird monster doesn't know how much Goro has grown. Meanwhile, Boros smirks.
Goro? You mean the hero hunter?
Boros squints his eye and notices that it's not just a first impression. The left side of Goro's face actually looks like that of a beast.
Seems the nickname the human monster may have been more literal than I originally thought.
Boros chuckles. Phoenix Man nods. The very same. I've got a history with him. The Birdman says before walking closer to Goro. The young man smirks at him.
It's been a while, Birdbrain. I've been looking to settle the score with you.
Goro declares. He's been healing his wounds and pondering on what to do over these last few days. The hero hunter's hunger is far from satisfied after his last battle. He needs more heroes to fight. And now he's found them. Phoenix Man looks the young man up and down and notes that Goro has probably monsterized to some degree since they were last together. What are you doing here? Haven't you stopped with your hero hunting yet? And what's up with that spiral and that scar? He asks and Goro chuckles.
Stopped? Ha! Far from it! I was just looking for someone worthy enough to hunt. And then I saw you got added to the Hero Association's website. I figured I could kill two birds with one stone. Getting my rematch with you, and hunting an S-class hero. But come to think of it, Why are you listed as a hero? You're a monster, aren't you?
Goro wonders, confused and annoyed. Phoenix Man shakes his head in response.
That's a long story. But if you're looking for a fight, then let's do it elsewhere. I don't want civilians getting caught up in our battle.
This surprises Goro greatly.
You? Worried about civilians? That's a joke, right?
He asks before shrugging.
Well, it doesn't matter either way. As a hero, you don't get to pick where you fight. That is up to the monster and where he decides to emerge!
Goro shouts before suddenly dashing forward and launching a punch toward Phoenix Man. The bird monster pivots to the side to avoid the blow and tries to end the battle fast by aiming a knife hand at the side of Goro's neck. However, the hero hunter ducks and counters with a sweeping kick that knocks the bird monster off his feet. Goro smirks before swinging another fist at Phoenix Man. To his dismay, the monster spreads his wings and uses them to block Goro's punch before knocking him away. Phoenix Man springs to his feet and jumps back, landing next to Boros.
A little help here? Goro's gotten way stronger since my last battle with him. I could use some...
Before Phoenix Man can finish his sentence, Boros points a finger in front of him, confusing the bird monster. He turns to look at what Boros is pointing to, and in that moment, Goro slams a fist into his face.
If you don't keep your eyes on me, this is gonna end up being way too easy!
The hero hunter declares before getting into a hand-to-hand exchange with Phoenix Man. His superior martial arts give him an edge, but Phoenix Man cleverly uses his wings to block and parry, sometimes to even dish out slicing attacks with their sharp feathers. The battle gets heated fast as the human monster and the actual monster duke it out in the streets, jumping from building to building, dashing across rooftops, throwing each other down into streets and pavements. It's a fierce clash, but thankfully the damage is kept to a relative minimum. Boros watches the entire thing unfold, grinning to himself. This looks like fun. Goro is really giving Phoenix Man a run for his money. Boros would step in, but come on, it's not his fight. It would be unfair to gang up on Goro if it's not a world-ending threat like God is. For now, Boros just hangs back and watches. Phoenix Man grabs Goro by the hair and throws him into the air before pile-driving him into the pavement hard. The hero hunter feels his brain rattling, but that only serves to pump him up, and he kicks Phoenix Man off of himself, before lunging at him with a barrage of blows. The assault is vicious, and Phoenix Man is forced on the defensive. The monster soon decides to change tactics and spreads his wings before swinging them at Goro's direction at random, creating a hurricane of razor-sharp feathers impossible to avoid. Goro puts his hands up in front of his face and chest to defend his most vital areas before the onslaught begins. The hero hunter feels portions of his skin and muscle being cut apart. Blood splashes and stains the road crimson. Goro starts getting annoyed. The pain isn't all that much, he's been through far worse, but this is getting tedious. He's gotta finish this up fast before the blood loss catches up to him. The human monster roars out before extending a hand forward and using Bomb's whirlwind iron cutting fist to slash up Phoenix Man's wings, stopping his assault dead in its tracks. The bird monster grunts in pain while the martial artist smiles. He drives a fist into Phoenix Man's face and dashes forward a few meters before slamming his foe into a building. Or, that's what he would like to do, but someone gets in the way. Boros swoops in from the side and bashes Goro right on the temple, making him let go of Phoenix Man and stumble backwards before he can reach the building. Kenji now takes a stand against the hero hunter himself.
Listen. I'm all about a fair one-on-one most of the time, but I cannot let you harm civilians or do much property damage. You got that?
Boros tells Goro, who wipes some blood off of his bruised head where the punch hit him just moments ago. To the alien's surprise, he sees the bruise heal right before his eyes. All the cuts and slashes Phoenix Man gave him as well. The hero hunter's wounds are healing at an astonishing rate for a human. Goro's clearly got some traits of a monster in him. This intrigues Boros. Goro frowns. Now that this guy stepped up to fight, it's a 2-on-1. Nothing Goro hasn't dealt with before.
2-on-1, huh? You're sure to love ganging up on their foes, don't they? Bring it on!
He shouts before lunging at Boros and Phoenix Man, who get ready for battle. Goro swings his fists and feet at the duo, using his martial arts skills to pressure them both. Boros and Phoenix Man are put on the back foot for a brief moment, before Phoenix Man spreads his now regenerated wings once again and uses them as shields to block the blows, while Boros quickly dashes around the bird monster and aims a left hook at Goro's head. The martial artist notices this attack at the last second and dodges out of the way, but just as he does, Phoenix Man unleashes a barrage of swings with his razor-sharp wings. The hero hunter is forced to focus on dodging the blows from the Phoenix monster, and is unable to deal with Boros' incoming fist. The alien slams a hard uppercut into Goro's side, cracking a couple of his ribs. The martial artist stumbles back before Boros catches up to him and knees him on the chin, sending him flying across the street. Goro lands head first on the concrete and rolls for a couple meters before collapsing onto his back. Kenji stands up tall and smirks.
You're not bad for a human. However...
Don't just stand there, keep attacking! Goro recovers fast and gets stronger every time he does. Phoenix Man urges his teammate as he flies past Boros and grabs Goro by the neck before rising into the sky and kicking him back down. Goro coughs up a bit of blood as he flies toward the street once again. But before he can land, he feels enormous pain as Boros embeds his fist in the hero hunter's face with ferocious force.
Teaming up like this usually isn't my style, but if we're trying to mitigate collateral damage, I guess I have no choice. Sorry.
Boros says before launching Goro away. Before the young man can fly into any building, Kenji appears behind him and drives a double-axe handle to the top of his head, delivering a devastating blow that stuns the martial artist completely. Phoenix Man quickly lands next to him and finishes the combo with a strong follow-up chop to Goro's neck, right to the artery. The human monster collapses to the ground. The two monsters in the sky stare at the hero hunter for a few moments to make sure that he's not moving.
That ought to do it. 2 strong attacks to the head and neck should keep even you down for a while.
Phoenix Man says to Goro before turning to Boros.
We have to get him out of the city, that's for sure. The question is, do we kill him or not?
Don't get cocky. You haven't won yet!
Goro's voice suddenly rings out across the street. Both monsters turn to the martial artist, and to their surprise, they see him standing on his own 2 feet.
Wow, you're quite resilient, aren't you?
Boros grins wide. Meanwhile, a shade of concern clouds Phoenix Man's face.
This isn't good. He's evolved again. Goro wasn't this hard to KO before.
Boros' smirk only widens.
Is that so? This guy is getting more interesting by the second. First the monsterization, then the martial arts, now this. Stop getting excited and focus!
Phoenix Man says, exasperated. Without saying another word, Goro springs at his opponents with speed considerably higher than what it was just moments ago. Boros is taken aback and is barely able to react in time to put up an X-guard to defend himself. The human monster slams a fist into his arms, and to the alien's shock, the armor on his forearms cracks.
Uh-oh.
Boros thinks to himself before a kick to the chest from Goro sends him flying. Phoenix Man tries to intervene, but gets knocked to the side quickly as Goro dashes at Boros and puts the pressure on by unleashing a flurry of blows which force the alien to go on the defensive and do his best to block the incoming punches and kicks. However, it's no use. Goro's far superior skill enables him to land blow after blow, creating more and more cracks in Boros' armor. This is especially made worse by Goro utilizing the Whirlwind Fist to create large gashes across the armor as well. Finally, with one last kick to the jaw, Phoenix Man shatters the alien's face mask completely. Goro's eyes widen. He looks up at the Cyclops standing before him in surprise. He thought he'd just shatter the armor and leave the hero defenseless, not find some monster underneath the shell.
Whoa, you're a...
Goro starts before a scream from the other end of the street cuts him off. Multiple voices from inside buildings and various alleyways start letting out shocked gasps and murmurs. The people of the city. They're witnessing Boros' true appearance. The alien looks around and notices that multiple of them have their phones in their hands, no doubt taking photos and videos.
Well, that's not good.
The alien sighs before Goro suddenly winds up a fist and tries to land a strike to his eyeball. However, the alien simply leans into the blow, and Goro's fingers snap on impact with his eyeball. Goro's eyes widen in shock and horror.
You've really done it now. I'll get chewed out by the Hero Association because of you,
he says as he grips Goro's fist tightly. The martial artist tries to pull it back, but it doesn't budge an inch.
What the? How are you stronger without your cybernetic enhancements than you were with them?
The hero hunter's eyes go wide as Boros' lips curve into a satisfied smirk.
You misunderstand the purpose of that armor. It doesn't strengthen me. It limits me.
Boros unleashes an aura from his body so intense that it makes Goro sweat. Before the martial artist can do anything else, Boros sinks a devastatingly powerful uppercut into his gut, and Goro's vision instantly goes dark. The martial artist's body slumps onto the alien's arm, and Boros slings him over his shoulder before turning to the panicking people.
Could you please quiet down? I'm still the same hero I've always been,
the Cyclops declares, but the shouting only makes the people more fearful and confused. Some of them start running away, and Boros groans.
Whatever.
He turns and starts walking away.
Phoenix Man, you coming with?
The bird monster sighs and shrugs. The charade had to end at some point. He just worries that he might get caught up in this too now. In another dimension, called the Hametsu to Kurushimi, the #1 hero of Earth continues her never-ending struggle for survival. She's been here for hours, days, weeks, maybe months. It's impossible to tell, and the torture makes every moment seem like it lasts an eternity. This dimension has already pushed the Esper to the brink time and time again, straining her to her limits and beyond. Even worse, visions of her own worst fears, her childhood traumas, the horrible experimentation she went through, and all the horrific ways she could get brutalized in this dimension. All the unspeakable horrors she's already seen in her short time here, as well as visions of her beloved sister dying, playing over and over in her mind non-stop. It all becomes an unbelievably hard mental strain to endure. Still, while it took the Esper a while to be able to start moving here, much less actually fight, after innumerable encounters with death, Tatsumaki has finally somewhat acclimated to the environment. The air still feels like it's ripping her body apart, and her mind still feels like it's getting stabbed by a million needles at every waking moment, but at least now she can bear it. She can move. Tatsumaki has been walking for what seems like weeks. She doesn't know where she is going, but it just feels right to move. By sending her psychic energy out in front of her, and feeling where it collides with solid objects, the Esper manages to see her immediate path forward in the dark, and that's all that matters. Suddenly, Tatsumaki freezes up. Something has entered her sensory range. Something alive. The Esper feels the presence slowly moving in her direction. The words of Blast ring in her mind. Every living being here is stronger than her, and she should avoid them at all cost.
Shit.
Tatsumaki thinks to herself as she attempts to turn around and flee, to duck to some cover or fly away, anything. But the air just feels so thick, so hard to move through, and she's exhausted from the constant physical and mental torture. Even as the Esper does her best to will her body into moving, into running away, she can barely move faster than a crawl. Tatsumaki senses the creature behind her approaching, slowly closing the distance between them.
No. Stay away!
Tatsumaki screams out in her mind, not out loud, since if there was even the tiniest chance that somehow, some way the thing hasn't noticed her, a shout would shatter even that minuscule glint of hope.
You don't look like you belong here.
Tatsumaki's blood freezes in her veins. Now it's over. An immense pressure suddenly engulfs the area, pressing down on Tatsumaki like 1,000,000 tons of weight. The creature is close now, and she can feel bloodlust radiating from it. Tatsumaki panics. Pure terror fills her from head to toe, the kind of emotion that she hasn't felt since she was a child. Sweat drips down her face, her breathing becoming even more difficult than usual as the Esper gets closer and closer to beginning to hyperventilate. She can feel it. The creature is only meters away now. One more step and it's going to kill her. With a deafening shout, the Esper unleashes her full power and directs a gigantic wave of energy at the creature in a desperate attempt to push it away. However, to her horror, the creature simply hand waves it away, brushing it aside like a light breeze.
Disappear.
Tatsumaki hears the creature utter. Almost instinctively, she puts up the strongest shield she can muster to protect herself, before a massive force collides with her body like the shockwave of 1,000 planet explosions. She can hear the bones in her body shattering. She can feel her organs rupturing. She can feel her muscles getting shredded. In the darkness of her blindness, the Esper's entire world turns red. The impact of the blow instantly shatters Tatsumaki's shield and sends her flying across the dimension, spinning and rolling in the air until she hits the ground and skids for several minutes before coming to a stop. How far was she launched away? Could be a few miles, could be light years. Nothing is clear in this place. Tatsumaki coughs up blood as she tries to get back up, but it's no use. Her body has been completely ruined. The super intense gravity of this realm not helping her to stand up one bit. The Esper realizes she's got several mortal wounds and covers herself in a sheet of psychic energy before beginning to heal her body. A trick she learned from Fubuki way back during the Cosmic Phoenix Man debacle, which now feels like it might have happened centuries ago. If it weren't for this power, Tatsumaki would have perished here long ago. She really needs to thank her sister when she makes it out of this. As that thought crosses the hero's mind, the creature catches up and lands before her. Tatsumaki can feel its murderous gaze upon her. Strangely enough, she can't make out the shape of its body at all. It's like some fog is clouding the creature, but that doesn't matter. The Esper struggles desperately to heal herself just enough to at least manage another shield. Something, anything to protect herself. But it's already too late. The creature is within striking distance. And as if that wasn't enough, Tatsumaki hears a thud to her side. Another entity has landed nearby. And then there's another thud. And another. And another. Tatsumaki has lost count of how many she can hear, but it's safe to assume that there's at least a dozen or more beings surrounding her. Most likely having been attracted by the noise or the output of energy. The creature's footsteps get closer. She's completely surrounded.
No. It can't end like this.
The Esper mutters to herself, desperate to do something, anything. Suddenly, all sounds around her cease. Silence. Tatsumaki's eyes go wide in confusion. She can feel that all the creatures around her have simply frozen in place. However, a moment later, an aura far more terrifying than that of the creatures fills the air. And, in what can only be described as a miracle, the darkness of the realm suddenly lifts. Tatsumaki blinks as light enters her eyes for the first time in what seems like ages. She looks up at the sky and sees an amalgamation of something resembling a mix of flesh and plant life looking down at her.
It appears you have been abandoned.
A voice echoes in her head. Tatsumaki's heart jumps to her throat. She's never seen it. She's never felt it directly. But the Esper knows. That's the being known as God.
Abandoned. Forgotten. Left to rot.
Outside of the dimension, Blast jumps out of his seat.
It's starting! Already? Get everyone on high alert. Prepare to bring Saitama and Boros here as well. Roger.
Tatsumaki freezes in fear. Terribly exhausted, physically, mentally and spiritually. Now faced with the single greatest threat to all of existence. She's completely powerless to even take a breath, to even gulp, to even exist. God's aura, its mere presence, it's overwhelming, unbearable. The pressure is so immense that the Esper feels like her soul is going to shatter just by being in its proximity.
It's sad. Blast brought you here because he thought you could succeed. But in the end, you just weren't strong enough.
The Esper doesn't answer. She can't. Her throat has completely dried up.
It's his fault. He shouldn't have sent you here and tortured you so.
Tatsumaki can't help but agree, to some tiny extent. Why did Blast send her here? What did he expect to happen? Why didn't he at least train her a little in preparation for fighting off these monsters?
I can tell you're scared. Frustrated. Betrayed. You were about to die. Because Blast was careless. Irresponsible. Right now, time has stopped for all the creatures in this realm, excluding the two of us. But the moment it resumes, my sons will tear you apart.
This gets the Esper's attention. Finally, she's able to utter a couple of words.
Your sons?
That's right. My children. All the creatures in this realm. All the creatures in every realm out there. Even you and your sister. You are all children of mine.
Tatsumaki frowns.
Then why are you so intent on wiping us out?
My children were meant to live forever in happy harmony with the world I had given them. But think about it. Countless civilizations have risen and then destroyed themselves. You humans are no exception. You're destroying your very homeworld as we speak. In another 1,000 years, you'll be long gone. What is the meaning of having civilizations like this? Why do you mortals always self-destruct? It is because the realms changed, and you evolved. In the process, my children were corrupted. They became twisted, wrong. They betrayed me, their own father, millions of years ago. And that sin has been passed on for generations. It still lives on in Blast and his associates. I need to fix them, cleanse them, save them. And in order to do that, I need to destroy them. I need to reset the realms to their original state. Wipe the slate clean. Start over.
Tatsumaki can't help but think back to her childhood, when her own parents sold her off to an organization that tortured her in brutal experiments before leaving her for dead. The Esper hates to even think about it, but God's right. Humanity really is flawed. However, wiping them out is still absurd. There are so many good people in the world too. And yet, Tatsumaki doesn't really care about most of them. There are really only a few select individuals she holds dear. And a world without brutality, corruption, and cruelty. After all Tatsumaki has been through, it does sound alluring. Tatsumaki shakes her head.
You're insane! How could you possibly think that destroying all life everywhere is the solution?
I don't see any other option. There's no way to turn them back to the way they were. I will miss the beauty of the realms, of the stars, the planets. I will miss my children and their potential. I will miss all the wondrous creations of the multiverse. But I can start anew, create a new world full of new and unique possibilities.
If you truly cared, you'd find another way to fix everything.
I am frustrated too. All the work I did, the worlds I built, the countless civilizations that have come and gone. It's all for nothing. All my creations have done is betray and disappoint me. They're not worthy of my gifts. I need to start anew. However, to do that, I need a vessel, a harbinger of my will. You can serve that role. If you took my offer, accepted my gift, you would become the strongest being in the multiverse by far.
What? I don't...
Sooner or later, I will win this war. I am eternal, and I have unlimited time to destroy Blast and his associates. They will grow weary, make mistakes, like they already have by sending you here. Whether now or in 1,000 years, the multiverse will fall into my hands. Then I can create a brand new, perfect world and restart my family. You could be a part of it. Stop fighting in this useless war in a pitiful attempt to delay the inevitable. You can be immortal and gain ultimate power far beyond anything you could imagine. You could witness the birth of a new world. More than that, you could be the cause.
Tatsumaki's mouth falls agape. Is she being offered to become a deity?
No. That's too much. I could never kill that many people. Not to mention my own sister, and Blast, and Boros, and all the others. There's no way I would ever do that.
You don't have to.
God utters, and Tatsumaki's eyes go wide.
Your goal, your purpose, is to protect your sister. And I don't plan on taking that away. There are countless universes, countless worlds out there in the multiverse. If one of those infinite worlds was to survive the extinction, it wouldn't mean anything to me.
Tatsumaki quickly catches on, and as soon as she does, a chill runs down her spine. She realizes that she might just be tempted to take the offer.
The deal is as follows. You take my hand, become my vessel, and do my bidding. In exchange, I shall stay away from your universe. Your sister and everyone you know and care about shall be completely safe. I will never manifest in that universe again. It can be its own fenced-off corner of the multiverse, not bothered by anything going on around it. All you have to do is take my hand and wipe out
out everything else. After that, you'll get to watch the birth of a new multiverse, without flaws. And you will get to see your sister live a happy life, blissfully unaware.
Tatsumaki keeps quiet. She thinks the offer over carefully.
But I'd still know. I would be responsible for all that death, all those genocides. And I would have betrayed everyone who's counting on me.
Consider the alternative. I've already explained to you that my victory is inevitable. It is only a matter of time. Even if there was somehow a being who could stop me, I could simply wait until they died of old age. And that aside, stronger and stronger monsters are appearing every single day. If I reach out to them, and they accept my deal, they will receive power far greater than even Phoenix Man possessed. Within a few months, I will be able to create tens, if not hundreds of vessels of power from your planet alone. Then all those visions you saw of your sister dying will come true.
God pauses, allowing Tatsumaki to absorb all the information before continuing.
The entire purpose of this training was to equip you with power necessary to combat me and my vessels. To protect your family and live up to the rank of number 1. And now that you've sensed my power, do you honestly believe that you could ever hope to combat me in any meaningful way?
Tatsumaki remains silent.
Take my hand now, and save your world by destroying the rest of them. Or refuse, and within a year, your world, along with all the others, will be annihilated. That's the deal.
Tatsumaki closes her eyes. She doesn't know what to do. She's conflicted, scared, exhausted by the constant torment from the dimension around her. Tatsumaki finds it hard to think clearly. But then she remembers. She remembers her sister, the person she loves most, her only remaining family. She remembers her promise, that she'd never let anyone hurt her. She promised herself that she'd always protect Fubuki. And as her thoughts drift back to Blast, she can't help but feel that she was abandoned. The Esper doesn't want to suffer anymore. She doesn't want to die here, never to see her sister or anyone else close to her ever again. And if not taking God's hand will result in their deaths anyway, then surely there is no choice here. With a deep, shaky breath, Tatsumaki reaches up into the air. Before clenching her fist tight.
No! I will not throw away everything I believe in. I'm a hero, damn it! And if you haven't been able to win this war in millions of years, then you can't be as inevitable as you say you are. It may be foolish, but I will fight you, and I will protect my world, my sister, and everyone around me my own way!
Tatsumaki declares. Suddenly, all the creatures around her stir. However, the Esper doesn't feel fear anymore. Instead, all she feels is determination and drive.
Wipe out the multiverse? What kind of nonsense is that? No matter what you offer, I will never do something that vile. And even if I die here, who the hell cares? My sister is strong. Even if I'm no longer around, she won't be broken. She can live on without me, as her own person. It might be rough, but she will make it through. And with Blast, His team, Saitama, Boros, and everyone else growing stronger every day. It doesn't matter how many monsters you send our way. We won't go down. So you can take this deal and go to hell!
Tatsumaki screams with all her heart, and at that moment, all the monsters around her snap back to their senses. All of them charge at the Esper, ready to destroy her at once.
Pitiable.
God says before the world around Tatsumaki goes dark yet again, but this time she does not threat. The Esper takes a deep breath before focusing all her power into one last attack, putting everything she has into what could very well be the final act of her life.
I will not allow myself to die here! Do you hear me?
Tatsumaki screams out into the void with all her heart before unleashing a gigantic explosion of psychic energy, one that holds all the power the Esper has ever had in her life. With a thunderous bang, the psychic energy collides with the creatures before instantly ripping them apart and vaporizing the remains, much to Tatsumaki's own shock. Her eyes go wide.
How did I...
Congratulations! A voice comes from behind the Esper, and in the next moment, Tatsumaki finds herself being pulled into a tight hug by Blast.
I'm so glad. And proud.
The former number 1 hero says before Tatsumaki's fatigue catches up to her all at once, and she falls asleep. Hours, or maybe days later, the Esper wakes up in a comfortable bed. Something she'd almost forgotten even existed. Slowly opening her eyes, the first thing she sees is darkness. Great, she's still in the Hametsu Kurushimi, and the air still feels like needles. Wait, only needles? Not superheated shards of glass? That's certainly a major improvement.
Good, you're awake.
The former number 1 hero says, sitting on a chair nearby. Tatsumaki slowly sits up and realizes that all her wounds from earlier are gone. Blast must have treated them.
What happened?
Tatsumaki asks, confused. Then, memories of all the events leading up to this point come rushing in. The creatures, her conversation with God, and that final attack. Instantly, the Esper gets serious.
What happened to God? And why are you here?
Tatsumaki wonders with a bit of mistrust. Blast did leave her here to fend for herself after all. Out of everything God said, the one thing he did have a point on is why the hell did Blast not prepare her better for this?
I almost died! Numerous times! You told me the creatures here would be stronger than me, but I didn't think they would be that much more powerful. I thought I could at least run from them. But you knew from the start I wasn't gonna survive against the monsters here. So why did you just... What was the point of this? To tire me out and to put me on the brink of death so God could convince me to join up with him? Was this your genius idea?
The Esper shouts, enraged, and Blast sighs.
I'm sorry. Really, I am, but you're right on the money. The plan was to push you to the brink and lure God into confronting you.
Tatsumaki's eyes go wide.
What did you just say?
The Esper is completely stunned. She can't believe what she just heard. The whole time Blast was trying to push her closer to God? Why?
Like I said, I'm sorry. And not just for that. There's no easy way to say this, but I lied to you about the Hametsu Kurushimi as well. More specifically, I lied about its purpose. This dimension, It is not something every member of our team goes through to qualify for our anti-god unit. In fact, you're one of only 5 people to spend more than a few days here in the last 1,000 years. Because in truth, this place is the realm closest to God. It's the world where God is most prevalent, most free to manifest, and most dangerous.
Bless says, and Tatsumaki stares in disbelief. She wants to say something or to punch Blast in the face, but her anger has already turned into shock and confusion. And with how drained the Esper is, she doesn't have the energy to make a move anyway. Blast lets out a sigh and continues.
The creatures here are creations of God. Their purpose for now is to simply wait. But if God is ever released from his seal, he will be free to open the floodgates from this dimension to the rest of the multiverse. He will send these monsters out to attack worlds and wipe out every living being on all life-supporting planets across space and time before he himself repairs those worlds and molds them to his liking.
Blast tells Tatsumaki, and her mind is completely blown. She can barely comprehend the scope of it. This and the conversation with God earlier. It's just too much, too absurd. And yet, the former number 1 doesn't seem to be lying. Then again, he didn't seem to be lying when he explained this dimension for the first time. But either way, this still doesn't explain the Esper's most important questions.
So why in the world did you send me here then? Tell me!
Tatsumaki demands, angry and confused.
Because, despite how horrific this place is, there are a few positives to its existence. For one, just by being here, you're constantly growing stronger. The intense conditions provide an excellent training ground. In here, simple activities like flying, walking, talking, or even breathing and blinking all provide better strength gains than hundreds of hours of training out in the regular dimensions. But you already knew that. More importantly, there exists a tale about this place. Something which, if correct, would be a complete game changer when it comes to our conflict with God. Tell me, do you know anything about the limiter theory?
Limiter theory? No. I've never heard of anything like that.
The Esper responds, now more confused than ever.
In simple terms, it is the natural limit of every living being, set in place by God himself. No matter how much one trains and evolves, someday they will all hit their limiter, and lose the ability to grow any stronger. I've seen it happen myself more than once, so I believe this theory to be true. The limiter is a contingency set in place by God to prevent living beings from ever getting strong enough to threaten him. Logically, in order to truly combat God, one has to remove that limiter.
Tatsumaki nods, following the logic so far.
Okay, I understand that much. But what does that have to do with this dimension?
We have a theory. We've had it for a long time. The closer you are to God, the easier it is to overcome your limiter. And the Hametsu to Kurushimi is the closest we've been able to get in thousands of years.
Blast explains and the Esper's eyes go wide. She's starting to catch on.
That theory first came to be because roughly 1,000 years ago, a powerful seer entered the Hametsu to Kurushimi by accident. She was here for roughly 0.2 seconds before her body completely gave out on her, and her life was about to end. Then, suddenly, God made contact with her. It offered the seer a deal, but she realized what a dark entity she was communicating with, and refused to take it. Moments later, a member of my team arrived to rescue her from the dimension. Now here's the important part. After the seer successfully recovered, even though she refused God's hand and exhibited no signs of monsterization or divine energy, Her power grew exponentially. Physically, she was the same as ever, but her psychic abilities, specifically her ability to see into the future, went through the roof. Her limiter had been breached.
Tatsumaki's eyes narrow.
Wait, if this supposedly happened 1,000 years ago, then how can you be sure it's actually true? Don't tell me you risked my life to test this theory based off of a fairy tale.
Because I was there when it happened.
A tall man walks into the room from behind a corner, and although Tatsumaki can't see him, his energy feels awfully familiar.
I was the one who rescued the seer. I watched with my own eyes as the results of her interaction with God blossomed.
The man says, and Tatsumaki's eyes shoot wide open. This voice, this energy, and the shape of his body and face that she can feel with her energy, it's so much like...
Boros!
The Esper shouts in surprise, but the man simply shakes his head.
Incorrect.
The Boros lookalike states bluntly before continuing his explanation.
The seer had breached her limiter. Not quite broken it, but dented or cracked it, so to speak. And after thorough inspection, we found that aside from the devastating effects the Hametsu Kurushimi had on her body, there was no negative consequence to her newfound power. As you can imagine, after that, myself and the others tried to replicate what the seer had done. One by one, we traveled to the Hametsu Kurushimi in hopes of getting into contact with God, rejecting him and gaining higher power. However, no matter how long we stayed in there or how hard we tried, no one could ever manage to communicate with the deity. Some even perished here trying.
The Boros lookalike explains and Blast nods.
All this happened far before I was in the crew. But what I, along with the others before me, believe is that God is aware of the drawback reaching out to a mortal can have. To it, every time it reaches out in this dimension is a high-risk, high-reward move. If the target accepts the deal, God can give them an immense amount of power and gain a strong vessel. But if the target refuses, they gain power that could potentially oppose him and his vessels to some degree. And thus, the deity will not reach out unless it's at least relatively certain that it can get its desired result.
Now I'm following. It didn't reach out to any of you because it knew you would refuse. You needed someone who was unaware of any of this and whom God may actually risk reaching out to. But, of course, you needed the target to be able to resist the offer as well. Otherwise, you would only end up with an ally of God. And I just so happened to fit the bill, didn't I?
More or less. We also needed someone strong enough to survive in this dimension for at least a while. The seer had her body permanently and irreversibly mangled. And what good is a limit-breaking warrior if they can't move a finger? This requirement alone knocked out pretty much every hero Earth has except for you and a couple others. Like I said, I'm sorry. But I knew you had a strong heart from the start. I had faith you would refuse the offer. And you were in desperate need of power. So if you were strong enough in spirit, everything would work out just fine for all of us, you included. That's what I thought when making this decision. I, on the other hand, was against the idea. Considering how much strength one can gain by refusing the deal. Imagine the kind of destruction that could be brought upon if someone as strong as you accepted the deal and got cosmic powers unlike anyone has ever received before. Several beings on Earth, most recent being that Phoenix creature, took a far lesser version of that deal and became real threats to your civilization. And the Phoenix creature exceeded that, becoming a threat to even our unit. All of these are examples of creatures who breach their limiters by coming closer to God. But now imagine if one was to truly, fully accept the deal. their limiter would probably be shattered. We'd be dealing with a threat far greater than that phoenix creature you fought on Earth's moon, or Blast's old partner, or any other threat we've encountered. It could have meant the end of the world. Of all the worlds, even.
But it didn't. Tatsumaki, do you remember what you did when those creatures attacked you after your meeting with God was over?
What? Well, Oh! My psychic blast!
Tatsumaki exclaims, her eyes going wide.
That attack. It tore through that horde in an instant, even though just one of those things withstood my full power and put me on death's door before. Does that mean...
That's right. You've cracked your limiter. Your power has already increased, and it will only continue to increase from here. Now we can begin your real training. Blast smiles, but Tatsumaki remains uncertain.
I suppose I got what I wanted, but this still doesn't make up for everything you put me through. And I don't think I'll ever be able to trust you again.
I suppose it's only fair. Blast agrees and gets up from his seat. I promise to get you the best training possible for the remainder of our time here. That is the biggest apology I can offer. I hope you can accept it. Tatsumaki sighs, accepting that, while what she went through was utter hell, she can't deny the results. The Esper is stronger now, and with her limiter breached, she can get even more powerful. Tatsumaki needs to. She has to.
Alright. Then I'll hold you to your promise.
And that has been it for part 4. My throat is in shambles, even though I recorded this throughout like 4 different sessions because my voice kept dying on me. But anyways, I'm really curious, what do you guys think about this? Because, to be honest, this is the part that I am most nervous about releasing, or I was by the time you're hearing this. I'm not sure how this is going to be received exactly, with the whole, multiverse talk and all the God stuff, the God's motivations and whatnot. Even that he might be lying to Tatsumaki, he doesn't have to be telling the truth, so if you don't like the motivation, you can just say it's a lie, whatever you want to think. I'll be looking forward to hearing the response to this part, because again, out of every part, I feel like this is the one that I'm kind of the most nervous about, because it's the most experimental. But yeah, let me know in the live chat or in the comments below, what do you think about this episode? Did you like it? Was the more outlandish stuff good or bad, or are you neutral about it? I'm eager to hear the response. Also, this is post-editing Satri hopping in. Just wanted to say, sorry if there were any issues with certain sentences not splicing in correctly. The production of this episode was very much all over the place, and you'll notice a few sentences might sound a little bit different because they were recorded at different times compared to everything else, and the script might not fully match up, so I'm sorry about that, but it just had to be done because I really wanted to get this episode out already. I've barely had any time at all to work on it recently. But, yeah. In other news, a massive, massive thank you to all the people who helped out with this episode. Specifically, huge thanks to Marcin for doing the voice of Garo. He does a spectacular job. Same with Morning Venus for the voice of Tatsumaki, thank you very much. And also, this time, on this episode specifically, I had a little bit of help with the editing as well. Specifically for the scene where Garo punches Phoenix Man in the face and Boros points at Garo. Thank you very much to Mass Creation Broadcasts on Discord for making it happen. He has his own YouTube channel, which I will link in the description and pinned comment, so make sure to check him out. And then also for Yasin for coming out and for doing the aura on Garo. which that looks very cool. I love it. And yeah, massive thank you to both of these guys for coming in and helping out with the editing a little bit. And of course, a massive, massive thank you to all the Patreons who support this series. I appreciate you guys a lot. So Master X, Pain the God, Lelix, Shrink Crimson, Dr. Quir, Erwin55, Latrish, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. Hombre Mujer, oh god, I cannot pronounce these names. Random Waffles and Trilord, I appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you very much. And yeah, it means a lot that people are interested in this series enough to even support it in this way, and I love it. I love it. It brings me so much joy. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.